Well, hello, Joshua and Melissa. Tonight, I am your host, Bonitto Grange, on transforming your relationship. I have a young couple here today that's been married for a few years now, and I've asked them to share with us about their relationship, their journey, and just life themselves. That's Joshua and Melissa Walters. So, welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Man, when I asked you guys at first, there was no reservation. I don't think there was any reservation. I didn't sense any reservation. We just went over a few things here, and just thanks for just showing up and being intentional about what we're about to do tonight for the next maybe 20 25 minutes, whatever the time will give us here. And hopefully that other young couple will see that, hey, you know what? There's other individuals here that are married. They're married for about 5 years, I believe, or so, that are still living for God, that are still loving on each other. I mean, he gave me a new phrase here just the other day. I won't mention that, but he gave me a new phrase after 67 years of marriage, or after, sorry, after 36 years of marriage. I've never heard that phrase before, but so I've learned something here in my 36 years of marriage from Joshua. And hopefully, those that will listen, the young couples that are out there today, those that are just maybe thinking about getting married, we thank you for joining in and just listening tonight. So my intention in the coming week is to also interview a wonderful couple who have been married actually for 68 years. So that would be interesting. The scripture I'd like to start off with tonight is in Proverbs 5 and verse 18. It says, "Let thy fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as a loving hind and pleasant roe. Excuse me. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou lavish, my always with her love." So when I seen that scripture at first, so God, you just want us to rejoice with the wife of our youth, or what about when she gets older? Am I not still supposed to rejoice with her? So I believe not only rejoice with the wife of your youth or the husband of your youth, but also as time goes on, there's always got to be that appreciation. There's got to be that time when you realize that God brought you two together for a reason. And I believe this is my belief, and I believe it's very biblical, is that every Christian couple that's living for God, the reason why they're under severe attack today in the church, especially, is because the enemy knows that they are a threat to the devil's kingdom. And when a couple recognize that, they will realize they're not fighting just against each other, but it's a spiritual warfare that's going on, and God is able to bring you through. So, yeah, rejoice with the wife of thy youth. So, thanks again, Joshua and Melissa, for coming in. So, first of all, it's always interesting to know, how did you meet? Number one, and who said "I love you" first? Any one of you can go.
All right. So how did we meet? It was, I'll share my side first.
Okay,
And I think it really started online. I guess in the traditional sense that may not make sense, but
right,
for in modern day terms, it makes perfect sense.
absolutely.
Back when BBM was still around,
Okay,
we met on one of my cousins' groups, just church groups, where different brethren came on a
mm,
BBM chat group, and that's when I started to notice her, and we started as friends. It wasn't until maybe a couple years later where we met in person, 2 or 3 years later in person
okay,
at a local church meeting, um, and then God started doing some things which we'll talk about shortly. But yeah, it started from online social media.
okay, great. And 2 years after, right?
Two, three
Yes.
years afterwards, yeah.
And during those 2 years, you folks are still communicating, I would imagine.
We were, yeah.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Um, so on the group chat, I did recognize that he was on there, but
Okay.
I didn't really have like a deep connection or anything. It was just like platonic, just when you go to your church, you know of them, but you don't you fellowship with them. It was that's what it was, like a type of
Mhm.
fellowship thing.
Okay. So that's interesting. So the young couples that out there that's looking for their queen and looking for their king, it's good to go to church fellowship
Yeah.
other than just within your own assemblies, right? Of like faith, if you so choose, which is a good way to start. Okay. So that's interesting. So how did when things started to develop? My question is to you also, Joshua, even before things started, as a young man and Melissa as a young woman, how were you preparing yourself? I would imagine that you both had thoughts in your mind that one day I'd like to be a husband, I'd like to be a father, children will come, I'd like to be a wife, so forth, right? But how were you developing and preparing yourself before that time? And I think young couples need to hear this. It's just not I want to get married. I got a dream of how life is going to be about, but at the same time, how did you prepare yourself? Either one of you.
Well, number one, I asked questions. I like to, hang around the older folks
Okay, that's
because I
wise.
believe that they have wisdom to impart in us, especially as young women and young men. So I asked them different questions.
Mm,
I asked them, what did you see in your spouse that made you want to marry them? How did you meet?
right.
Things like that. And also, I read some books, took some courses about marriage. It may seem
Okay.
silly, but
No,
you
it's
know,
not
I
silly.
I've taken some courses about just developing myself as a woman and being a woman of God, and
Beautiful.
spiritually and personally. I went to different single conferences that they would have at different church conferences,
Okay,
and yeah, that's what I did, and also prayed too. Obviously.
absolutely. So, what was one of the fear or hesitation that you kind of felt even during that time before you said I do? What kept on coming up, or was there a fear?
Uh, I guess just them accepting me for who I was or who I
Mm,
am,
that's a good
being able to be me. I don't
right.
want to get married and lose myself.
Right. No, that's beautiful.
So, yeah, that's one of the biggest concerns for me.
Mm. It's interesting. You said your biggest fear was hoping that they wouldn't want to change you, just accept you for who you are. My wife said to me this the other day. I just birthday was just last weekend, turning 67, and God has just been amazing. But anyways, she said to me, one thing that I admire about you is that even before we got married, when we got married, you have never tried to change me. And I figured it's like they hit a chord, us men. Well, I get emotional at times too, right? So I just thought it was such a compliment, right? And so that's beautiful. Is you didn't want to be changed. You just wanted to be who you are, show up who you are. And if this is what he wanted, well, this is what he's going to get, right? Because you've been praying and preparing yourself before that. Okay, that's wonderful. Joshua, how
Amen.
about you? The
Yeah.
preparation, because I know you're a praying man, so you must have fasted for a whole 6 months or 7 months or whatever it was, because I just know you,
Yes.
right?
All of that, yeah. No, but seriously though, I mean, oh yeah, there's definitely prayer and fasting in there, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it was a long time coming. It's a lot of just looking at different Christian resources,
Hmm.
listening to Christian radio talk shows talking about marriage and family,
Right.
reading books as well,
Hmm.
um, just looking at just really solid Christian sources of information, teachers, uh, well learned, in the spirit teachers that were just saying the right things about marriage and the
Mm.
principles beforehand. So
Right.
I kind of learned a lot even before just pulling from all those sources.
Hmm.
Besides, just spending time with God and in the Word
Right.
before even encountering it. Once I started looking, and then when we were on the group like we said earlier, whether you can go in person or not,
Right.
or online, I should say, whether you can go in person or online, it's always good to fellowship with other church groups of your belief, because outside of your usual group, because you never know, God may have a greater blessing there for you. So that could be part of the preparation as well, just to add
Right.
that point in there too. So
I
yeah,
like what you said, a greater blessing. She's sitting right beside you.
that's right. Absolutely. And by the way, so my walk with God developed to a point where, we talk, and you have these little things where you kind of know it's God, but then
Mhm.
you kind of have your relationship with God kind of takes on its own characteristics.
Right.
So I was asking God for specifically what I wanted,
Hmm.
physically, relationally, just,
Yeah.
and I got exactly what I prayed for.
Wow. Did you
So
share?
God can hear your prayer. You have
Amen.
to get to that place in your walk where you're specific with God, and don't
Right.
be afraid to be real with Him, and He will answer.
He will answer. I like the God factor that's in the conversation today. I'll meet individuals where they're at, because I'm not here to push my religion or my experience on anyone else, right? But seeing that we're of like faith here, definitely admire the God factor, because it's interesting. We marry at the altar, so God was a factor in the marriage. But sometimes going through life, we forget about the God factor, and it's just about us, and then that's where challenges and conflicts comes up. So here's a question here: when did you know without a shadow of a doubt, out of all the ladies in the church or in the world, oh my Lord, you knew that without a shadow of a doubt, this was the woman that God had prepared for you? When did you know without a shadow of a doubt that she was the one?
So once our relationship took a deeper form,
Hmm.
the truth is, I think maybe when I first started interacting in the MSN group,
Okay.
the
BBM.
BBM group,
Right.
I think I kind of thought to myself, oh, there's something different about this person. Then
Okay.
over time, little by little, I would see her minister at her local assembly, which
Hmm.
was in BC at
Right.
the time, one of our assemblies that we fellowship with, part of our organization specifically.
Hmm.
But when I knew for sure was when I started to really pray seriously and say, God, here's who I have in mind. And there were others, but closer to the time, there was another other person. And
Okay.
I've heard that from other people that I've spoken to, especially relatives who've had a similar experience. There
Right.
was always one other person that it could have been.
Okay.
So to distinguish between that person and her,
Hmm.
and I give God thanks for the other one, because that person was in the spirit and gave me the right advice. The Lord actually let me attempt with that other person first,
Okay.
and He allowed that as a learning experience,
Okay.
and He allowed it to dissipate.
Hmm.
And she told me, don't just go jump and marry anybody now. Make sure you still seek the Lord. And
Nice.
I respected that.
Yeah.
So that was important. But as I was seeking God, and I asked God. So remember about like specific prayer, right? So this is all God in here, right? So I asked God, for God, you could give me two dreams. Three would be nice, but maybe two.
Okay.
So He actually gave me three dreams, but one was a dream by itself,
Okay.
and then one was two dreams in one.
Mm.
And my favorite dream, I'll just share one of them,
Yeah.
was,
Please.
I was I was it felt like it was her her family home, and I was there, my dad was there, and her mom was there, and she was serving us tea. I woke up, in the scripture that I read was Genesis 24,
Okay.
and that's the story of Isaac and Rebecca coming
Right.
together.
Right.
So encourage anyone, listening, go ahead and read Genesis 24.
Okay.
Powerful story.
Mm-hmm.
So the same principles were in there, and it's like God was showing me this is the kind of character that she is, and this is what you've prayed for.
Right.
That's just one of the three dreams. So at that point, I knew for sure. Then I started the approach.
That she was the one. Okay. Good confirmation. It's always good to have that confirmation. And like yourself, I had mine too. Except my wife had her confirmation before I had mine, actually, kind of different. She was in the kitchen one day and she literally heard a voice behind her said, "You are going to marry Bonitto." Like
Wow.
literally. She turned around and looked, there was nobody there. She says, "Okay," and just kept on doing what she wanted to do, what she was doing at the present time. Mind you, I didn't hear that story till years after, okay? But it's not about me here. How about you, Melissa? How did you know without a shadow of a doubt that this amazing young man that I've known for, I've known Joshua now for 21 years. I've been in Edmonton for 21 years.
Wow.
So yeah, without a shadow of a doubt that out of all the kings out there, out of all these charming young men, what was so different about this one?
It was, basically his character, his
Okay.
personality,
Yeah.
just seeing how he entreats his parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important thing, respecting your parents is an honorable thing, and it's something that God really takes seriously.
Right.
And just how he treats me. I mean, there were some apprehension that I had in the beginning
Okay.
because when he was trying to talk to me, and at the time talking about preparing for marriage, yes, I did have the mind to get married, but at the time I was at a place where I wanted to go back to school, wanted to pay off some debt, and yes, that was
Yeah.
another concern that I
Marriage
had.
was not a part of the plan.
It was not a part of the plan because one of the other concerns is I didn't want to go into marriage with debt because when you go to school you got to do student loan
Right.
and all those type of things. So I was just getting ready to go back and wanted to work my way and clear out all the debts. But then here comes marriage. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, God, I just
Yeah.
want to be single. I just wanted to get to know myself, because we had just transitioned from Toronto and we moved to BC,
Okay.
and likewise there was somebody else too, but that did not work out as you see us here today. So yeah, just seeing how he was, a man of great character, someone that I could laugh with. And even now, I'm thinking, what if I had ended up with this person, it
Right.
would not have worked out. I don't know, but I know that I'm right now that I'm comfortable, I'm content,
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy, I love him, and
Beautiful.
in love with him, and
I see.
just happy that I can wake up in the morning and say thank you, Jesus. I don't have to be looking inside of the bed and asking God, what have I done? You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know,
That's
it was just like we knew each other
mm,
for years
right.
when we got married. So there was no fear, there was no shame.
Mm,
It was just unique and it was just organic, just
nice.
real.
Nice. I like that. No shame. Um, you mentioned something earlier also about character. That is so important. At the end of the day, your character will tell you who you are or who you're not. And if a man or woman is genuine, their character is consistent. It doesn't change with time. If anything, it would get better. But as time goes on, you will always reveal who you really are. We see you today, but is this Joshua same Joshua tomorrow? Is this the same Melissa tomorrow? I married her today, but is this the same Melissa I'm going to see show up, 5 years from now or 10 years from now? It's the same Melissa, but a more matured Melissa. It's the same Joshua, but now a more matured Joshua. Because as time goes on, we have to mature. individually and also in a relationship with really just ties things together beautifully, right? So you mentioned also about his family. So I'm going to go there. So as a young couple, what's one thing that you've taken from your family, from your parents, that has really helped you along this journey? How about you, Joshua? I know your parents have been married for many years, but
Oh yes,
like
yes, many years. Yeah, this year is gonna be 48,
48 years. Wow.
48 years. So
Beautiful.
yeah, a long time. Long time.
Older
So
than you.
yes, yes. Yeah, 48. Is it 48 or 49? Oh, it might be 49, you know.
No.
Yeah, it might
Wow,
be
long
49.
time.
It's been a long time.
Either way, it's a long time. 40 to 49 is still
Still
One of
long.
those, and I'm the baby, so
okay.
still young. But yeah, that example, I looked in the garage the other day, and
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I became my dad. Got all the tools. I have things hung up on the side of the garage. I've got
Okay.
my different, garden stuff and
Right. Hmm.
lawnmower, etc. I was like, oh, I became my dad. Because there's
Mm.
some things like I wouldn't let Melissa do like I would. I'll do it. I don't want
Right.
her to, I don't want her to have to do it. So I'll I'll mask up and I'll go with get it done, right? So yeah, like just the example, mom's prayers, um, and even coming into one thing I've learned too is in getting in-laws, they we call them in-loves.
Okay.
So it's not losing. You're not losing. They weren't losing her. They were
Mm.
gaining me,
Okay. That's a good way to look at it. Absolutely.
right? And vice versa. My family wasn't losing me. They were
Right.
gaining her.
Hmm.
So, and I think we've really come into that now and are very comfortable with our families. Thank God. Because I
Right.
know not everyone necessarily has that,
That's
but
right.
God can work things out,
Yes, you
and you
can.
can find good support in a church group. We would
Mm.
encourage it.
Hmm.
We don't. Not everyone watching may necessarily be religious, but
Right.
hey, it's when you have a community that surrounds you that you can pull from and give into it.
Right.
It makes a difference, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Does make a difference. Well, thanks for sharing that, Joshua. So, Melissa, how about you? When it comes to your family, what's something that you have taken away from them, from your mother?
Just being real, being vulnerable, learning how to just talk about things when
Hmm.
things may not always be, favorable.
Right.
Like my mom, I appreciate her for, being that person that just wants to dialogue talk. And if
Yeah.
you have to say, I'm sorry, say, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? And I just appreciate her for that and how she was vulnerable, talking about her life story, her past.
Mm.
I mean, the mistakes that she had made and what she would have done differently, now. And yeah, that just made me who I am. I just like to be free. I don't like to be in a box. I'm not this type
Hmm.
of person where I just like to be boxed up and, put in this mold. I
Right.
just like to be free and be me. And that's why I am happy to be where I am because I can be that person.
And be that person, and he's allowing you to be that person.
Yes, he could. He's allowing me to be that person. I don't have to, lock in my emotions.
Mm. Hmm.
I can talk. I can ask why. I can, just be free.
So here's a question, just to tie into what you're saying too. It's about vulnerability. How vulnerable as a man, Joshua, do you feel you are pertaining to your wife? And
Oh
what's
yeah, thank
and
you.
what's
Right.
and what's the reservation if there is any?
Oh, right question. I appreciate that. It flows with what Mel was just saying. As a matter of fact, I think I'm so grateful for that legacy as well. and the testimony from what Mel's gone through, her family, her mom, and how God has brought her through and is keeping her.
Mm-hmm.
And I one thing and maybe it was like those resources, perhaps some of the resources, maybe it was a combination of that along with just spending time with God and things like that. But
Right.
I think no reservation. Like I prayed, going back to like to answer this, going back to um, what I was looking for and what I prayed
Mhm.
for, those
Right.
specific prayers, right? I got exactly who I prayed for. Asked for someone who would love me for me.
Mhm.
I can say the same thing that Mel just said. Now I'm free to be me. We've had some extremely vulnerable conversations, like
Mm.
deep conversations,
Right.
and I would encourage every couple to have them.
Mm.
Um, the you know you the It's better if the person knows the real you, and that was before we got married. I had because of that upbringing and those resources,
Right.
I had the ability to say, "Hey, listen, here's where I'm at. Here's
Nice.
here's where I've came from. Here's my
Mhm.
testimony, like
Okay.
my real testimony."
Mhm.
And but yeah, because of who Mel is, and as a person,
Right.
as a daughter of God, I pray to ask God, Lord, am I okay to marry your daughter? And you know what he
Mm.
told me? He said, "You're my son, and I always give my best to my son. So why
Oh,
wouldn't I let you
you
marry my daughter?"
you're giving me goosebumps over here.
Yeah, that's what he said. So
Wow.
yeah, just we've had really deep conversations,
Beautiful.
um, in all areas, financially, sexually. Like, yeah, let's just be real. Like, just you have to have those real conversations,
Yes.
know where you're at, and
Mm-hmm.
do you match? It's part of that coming together, and to God be the glory.
So, um, and I appreciate for everything that you've said, and so many young couples need to hear what you're saying. Not just young, but middle age also. I'm not sure if you responded to this one, but how comfortable or uncomfortable did you feel in some of these conversations? I know I've had some conversations, and it can be uncomfortable, but my line that I've always used, in order to become comfortable, we first have to become uncomfortable to face the real issue or whatever the case might be. It's not nice, it's not pretty, it's uncomfortable while I'm hearing it, but at the same time, it's to get me to a place where I can be comfortable with who I am or with the situation, whatever the case is. So, where you're concerned, how comfortable or uncomfortable are you when you're having these conversations?
Well, at first, many of them were very deep personal things.
Okay,
As you mentioned, it was very uncomfortable.
okay,
But I had to make a decision that, I can't be married to someone and they don't know the real me.
beautiful,
And
yeah.
so that I credit it to God. He just gave me that enough understanding to know that.
Hmm.
And yeah, now, of course, now that's not the case anymore.
Nice.
But yeah, you once you start the first time, it doesn't matter where you are. Maybe you're married, and you know, um, we've done it ourselves. I would encourage any couple.
Hmm.
Meekness is not weakness. It's meekness
Right.
is might, and
Absolutely.
it's
Yes.
right. And if you need help, get help. If you
Yeah.
have to find a Christian counselor,
Hmm.
um, look. You can search and find.
Right.
There are resources out there of good solid. Pray and ask God to lead you, and then
Yes.
do research and look and see. You can use different things. There's different ways. The Christian yellow pages, um, Shepherd's Guide, but
And
there's
that's so
other
good,
resources.
because God is more interested in your relationship than
Yeah.
we are actually interested in, because He died for this.
Yes.
God, yes.
Excuse me. And our marriage is a replica of Christ and the church. So we have to be intentional and conscious on a daily basis of, am I representing am I being a representation of who he wants us to be right now? And if not, then what do I need to do, as uncomfortable as it might be? So, Melissa, I'm coming to you, and I'm almost done here. I thought I'd be done in 20 minutes, 25, but this is great. This is great. And, really thank you folks for being vulnerable and just being open also, as others are hearing young couples. I should have asked this question too, by the way. How long have you folks been married?
So this August coming is going to be 6 years.
6 years. I was supposed to ask it at the beginning, but now everybody knows. If you're still on listening, it's been 6 years. So this is really good. The bond that I know you folks have, and I've seen you in person many times, you can tell there's still something there. So, really keep that alive. So, Melissa, about you, when it comes to you and with these uncomfortable conversation and just being vulnerable now, I know as a wife or as a woman, we're more able to, they're more able to just tell it like it is, because I'm not saying just tell it like it is in a bad way or a mad way, but just really expressing it. Sometimes the volume might go up a little bit because maybe the husband has been listening for all this time, right? So the volume might change a bit. But how uncomfortable are you when you're having these situations?
Well, for the most part, I am comfortable.
You are comfortable. Okay.
I am comfortable. It depends on what it is, though, but
Okay.
depends on the subject matter. But eventually, I would come around, to talking to Josh and say there's something that I need to talk to you about.
Okay.
And even though the conversation may feel the subject matter may be uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad, and there has been a time where Josh, he would pick up on something. He's like,
Right.
"Is there something? Don't be afraid to talk to me. Talk to
Yeah.
me about."
Yeah.
That open door.
Yes.
That's that assurance of having a safe space for
Mm-hmm.
me to just unlock myself.
Yeah. You said that open door, there's many couples that had the opportunity to meet and have conversation with. That open door is partly open. It's not fully open. And it's like they want to tiptoe in and then kind of open it out because
Mhm.
the conversation that they're going to have is going to be uncomfortable. You're not sure how the other person is going to show up or react or whatever the case might be. So I really commend you folks. And everything that you've basically been saying since the time we started, it all comes down to communication. Like that's the end all and be all. If we can learn to communicate with love and with grace, then that's where the challenge comes in. So in closing off, I mean, there's a couple other questions I've had here, but I think we've done some good justice here this evening. So another question I want to ask you folks is, what's one thing or two that you're doing as a couple that has had an impact on your relationship and with God and even with others? What's one thing you start doing as a couple? It's become a ritual.
I think just our prayer Bible study
Okay.
time together
Mm-hmm.
is so important,
Right.
because and I've had conversations with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone watching, you've got like a great teacher, life coach right here. Bonitto Grange, man, like just you gotta go, gotta go have a conversation. But yeah, you said something that stuck with me, which was the triangle. And the closer that the two of you get to God, it's the closer that you get to each other, right? So that the more you pray together, you stay together, right? The more you pray together, you stay together. So yeah, just prayer and spending time with God, having those times.
Okay.
Carving out, and then the second thing would be carving out. Just a date doesn't have to be fancy all the time. It could be a walk, could be to a quick restaurant. It doesn't have to be a fancy restaurant all the time.
Right.
Your special time together, right?
Mm-hmm. And how do you think? I said this is the last. How have you folks overcome challenges in your relationship? What did that look like, and how? Yeah, now, no matter how long a person been married, there's challenges we all go through because that's what really will help bind us together. That's what really will help us to grow together. But what's a challenge that you feel, if you're comfortable in saying that you've experienced, but you can say that you've made it out on the other side, and you'd want others to know that this is how it can be and what it would look like at the end. You want to just finish off with that? Either one of you.
Either
You know, I want to let Melissa speak. Go ahead, Melissa.
Like some of you mean like a big challenge, a deep challenge?
Yeah, you tell me.
one.
Sure,
Um,
share with us if you can.
okay, I guess as well. This can be a topic for another day, but
Okay,
like
we can make it that way.
well, I guess one of the biggest challenges for us that we faced um, was with losing our first child. You know,
Yeah.
like that was a big one for us.
Yes.
And there are sometimes I do still feel it unto this day,
Mhm.
how we are able to overcome that, and still overcoming is just having um, a support, for lack of a better word, support system around you, friends,
Mhm.
family, those people that you can trust, that, and godly counselors that
Yes.
you can talk to um, about it. So that was one of the challenges for us, and
Mhm.
still coming out alive on the other side,
On
because
the other side. Oh,
when
beautiful.
you're going through those things, it can be really a dark time, and then you're wondering, where is God in all of this?
Yes. Yeah, and all of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So just going through it together and knowing that it's not just you're feeling it individually, but you are feeling it together.
Together. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that is one of the vulnerable things that we have gone through.
My wow, that's big, and really appreciate you sharing that. And Joshua, uh, how were you emotionally supporting her at that time? As a husband, as a man, how did you read the room and was emotionally supporting at that time with her?
I think just being there,
Mm, okay.
but also making sure that we were surrounded by our own supports. I needed support too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Mhm.
with the families and the pastors, it
Right.
was beautiful. Three pastors were there. I just and our some a couple close friends,
Right.
and our family was there, and just surrounding yourself with a good support system. Exactly what Mel said.
Hmm.
But that enabled me to really just be there
Just be there.
and just
Yeah.
comfort and
Right.
encourage. Yeah,
No, that's it's just good to hear you say that, because in situations like that and others that comes up in our relationship, the wife just wants her husband just to be there. Sometimes you don't have to say squat.
Mhm.
I don't need to hear you say anything right now. If you do, that's fine. But just to be there and just to be present, that just speaks volume. So we've come to the end here. I'm a little bit over, so Roshane Douglas will forgive me. But I really appreciate you folks coming in tonight and just sharing with us, and letting other young couples out there that's also living for God, or maybe just getting married, that what, it's been 5 years you said, and 6 years, 5 or 6 years you said,
Six.
6 years, and you're still living for God. You
Yeah.
overcome some challenges. And I imagine if we had time, I would ask, okay, what are some of the other challenges you want to share? But we all have something we all have to go through something, and it's our response to what we're feeling that's going to determine how this is going to turn up tomorrow, how this is going to end tomorrow. And just by hearing what you folks are saying, the response was there, the presence was there, communication was there, vulnerability was there. I mean, everything that's really needed to make things really work. Your community was there. God was at the center of it all.
Yeah.
You've got to be at the center of it all. All that is what really holds and binds things together. So I appreciate you folks again one more time. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Mel, for just being there and making yourself available. May God continue to bless both of you, enrich you. May the doors open that were once closed. May your cupboards be full. May the job that you're seeking for, the finance, let it all come together for the glory of God. I am your host, Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach. Thanks for tuning in again tonight. We will see you here in the next few weeks or so. I got another couple coming up that's been married for 68 years. You'll never believe who they are. A beautiful couple. I look up to this couple. I've known this couple for quite a few years, so I'm looking forward to that. So you folks have a good night, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Enjoy your day. And just allow God to lead your life and be a blessing to someone today. As my late bishop would say, just be kind.
Amen.
So she said, just be kind, just be nice, and things will just show up and follow you. So God bless, and we'll talk again, Josh and Melissa.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
God bless.